you need better water pressure,
Yep.
this is the delivery pump for it.
Yep.
So this gets plugged into an outlet.
About 250.
Yeah. All right. Ready? Okay, so today's training is going to be on chlorinators. So you guys understand a little bit more about the chlorinators. We have older chlorinators and we have newer chlorinators. We've had basically 3 styles of chlorine systems. One, I'll be right back.
Through the magic of video editing, this will
Okay.
take a split second.
One was based on a flow switch, which when water passed through this flow switch in this direction, it would push on a paddle on the inside, and that paddle would make a connection, and what that would do is that would make this outlet live. That outlet would trigger a pump like this, and which would then inject chlorine into a mixing tank, sort of like a water tower in a city, and then we'd use a carbon filter that used a different type of valve than this to dechlorinate the water. And our older chlorinators had a 10-inch tank, not a 13-inch tank. So this was one of the first type of chlorine systems that we had about 10 years ago. This was our most popular product. That product evolved about 5 years ago to this type of a system, where we have the pump, again, same pump, it was usually a Stenner pump, that has, we would leave the power switch on, and it'd be plugged into this outlet, and as this valve sensed water going through it, it would make the outlet live, thus turning this pump on, which would inject chlorine into the tank, mix it, and then dechlorinate it. Okay? So that's the second version. That one was out about 4 or 5 years ago. The newer version doesn't have this big orange tailpiece anymore. We have this kind of a pump, and today the new pumps have a low voltage cord that plugs into the board, and when it senses water, it gives it a 24 volt trigger that says turn on, and so then this pump turns on, and it draws chlorine out of a solution tank and puts it into the mixing tank, and then it gets dechlorinated through the carbon filter. Okay, you guys tracking?
Yep.
So this is the current design that we have that we're working with. So what I wanted to be able to do is teach you guys a little bit about what's inside this unit so you can understand it. Because when you talk to the customer and you want to be able to, sometimes they want to visualize what's going on with the system, like why would you need it? Well, a water tower that cities have, they actually buy static mixes like this, but on a huge level. So this company called CoFlow makes our static mixer, and it goes inside this tank. And what CoFlow does is make the big ones for cities, and they make the little ones for us, whereby you add chlorine to water, and you mix it, and then they store it in the big water towers. For us on a residential case, we're going to, 1 second, take this valve and thread that on to our static mixer, and then we have a diffuser on the bottom. The diffuser, as you can imagine, allows the water to, first the water comes through the inlet side right there. We add chlorine through the injection point there, and that was triggered by this pump. So this pump is actually injecting the chlorine into there. It gets, as that water gets mixed with this chlorine, it gets statically mixed through the static mixer that's made by CoFlow, and this forces the chlorine with the water. Okay.
That's where it actually contacts the water.
That's where the chlorine starts to mix with the water. So it's like a mixing. It's like agitating the water with the chlorine. And then it passes through this distributor and sprays out the bottom of the tank. And it sprays against the wall. What it does is this allows us to oxidize. And remember what oxidation means. Oxidation means you're taking the water molecule and you're popping junk off the water, usually organics, iron or sulfur. These are particles attached to the water molecule. So they pop off. So annually, we have to come out to this house. The reason why we need to come out to this house is annually, there's a blowdown valve in the bottom of this tank that we need to open up and we need to flush. Because as we pop stuff off, it settles to the bottom of the tank. This is also why water heater companies tell the owners that are on private wells that you need to flush your water heater more, at least once a year, sometimes up to 4 times a year, depending on how bad the water is. Because when you heat water, the same thing occurs, oxidation occurs, and the particles fall off and they land at the bottom of the tank. We've cut open water heaters and we can see just a sludge of garbage on the bottom of it, and that's actually just the water over many years of oxidizing stuff out of the water. Same thing occurs though with this, and this is how we can protect the water heater, is by oxidizing the organics out of the water with a chlorine system, where we add chlorine to it and it settles out all the big particles. Then we run it through the carbon filter that bites at the water to polish it a little bit more, and we take the chlorine back out of the water. So
Where
this
does
is
it draw from? At the top part or the bottom when it goes into the chlorination or the carbon?
Well, when the water flows through, it sprays in the tank, so as it comes down the distributor, it sprays, and the water comes back up the outside of that distributor, and it goes through that hole to the outlet. Okay?
Okay.
So it goes through that hole, comes out the outlet, and then we plumb it into this unit.
All right.
Make sense?
Mhm.
So that's how the chlorinator basically works. So what we're doing is we're trying to simulate what cities do, but on a residential level, and we do that by injecting chlorine. Now annually, the injection points, actually over here.
Thanks, though. Through the magic of video editing, anything can be taken care of.